Hello everyone, my name is Lynnette Stevens and I wanted to come on today and show you guys how to make a live wreath. I'm going to be using evergreen cuttings that I cut out of my backyard. So these make great wreaths for this time of year, right before Christmas, because they smell like Christmas. So they're really good to hang on your front door, so when your Christmas guests are arriving, it smells like Christmas as soon as they've walked up onto the porch. So I'm going to be making one today. I made one a little earlier, and now I'm making a second one because I'm actually going to be giving mine as a gift to a friend of mine that hosts Christmas at her house. So I wanted to wait till today so that I make sure that they look good and smell good when she does her Christmas on, Tuesday? So anyway, thank you to Rachel, my sweet niece, and to Cheryl for coming on, my sweet friend, to watch. I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera down so I can get started. Okay. And I think, girls, that's good. If I need to move my camera, would one of you please let me know? I know I can straighten it up just a little. So if that's good, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm hopping over. I'm going to bring up the video on my laptop like I always do so that I can see the questions and comments that you guys have. And as with every DIY demo that I do for you guys, please just let me know if you have any questions. Ask them in the comments and I'll get those answered for you. And if I miss anything, I'll answer it after I'm done with the video. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. So guys, I went out this morning and just cut evergreen cuttings off of my cedar and pine trees in our yard, and I've cut different lengths and I've cut different fullnesses, and as we go along I'll show you guys why. I'm going to go ahead and get started with this guy right here because he's got, I don't know if you guys can see, but he's got a little bit of a wicker on his branch that makes him kind of an odd shape, and that's the case with a lot of cedar. So what I do is I hold it against my wire frame, and before we go any further, I'll tell you girls, these wire frames, you can pick these up at Walmart, Hobby Lobby. I haven't looked at Michael's, I'm sure they have them, and our local Dollar Tree here near our hometown also carries them. So you might even be able to find them at Dollar Tree. Anyway, so I just take the wire frame and I kind of bend the branch, if you will, to see if it's going to go around nicely, kind of like what I would want. And I can tell that where this bend is in the branch is going to stick out and be awkward. I don't want those, I need to get these. So I'm just going to use my cutters and I'm going to cut right there where it kind of goes crooked on us. I'm going to cut that off and lay it back on. Let me see. And you, as you're going along, you'll see kind of the shape of the branch against the wreath form. And I'm going to talk to you guys too about it as we go along. And I'll show you how you decide kind of placement and where it would look best. And what I do to get started, I want to make sure you guys see this. The one little crossbar that's on the wire frame, I'm taking sort of my empty, like the end of my branch, and I'm going to stick it underneath that little cross member to kind of help secure everything. So I just stick him under there, and that already is going to start holding the branch on. And then what I'm going to use today is this wire that comes in a roll, and it's perfect for this because I'm going to start here and get my wire good and tight at the beginning of this branch, and then start just using the wire, and you'll see as we go along to wire around. Now you can use the little straight pieces if you want. You could also use small zip ties and zip tie all of this on. I just chose today to use the wire that's in the round coils, but you can feel free to use what you want. And then I'm going to start by wiring him on good, and I want to make sure you guys see this. Because it's the very beginning, I want to make sure I can get it really good and tight. So I'm going to tighten it with a pair of needle nose pliers. So I'm just going to wrap my wire around one wire on the wire form and in the branch, just catching those two things, the branch and the one wire on the wire form. Okay, and then I'm going to start getting it tight, but I'm going to take my needle nose, okay? So I just kind of went around one time with the wire, and now I'm going to take my needle nose and grab that and give it a twist because that is going to get it nice and tight for us. okay? And then I'm going to take just the spare piece that's left, that's kind of sticking out, wrap it around a few times, because we don't want to just leave that hanging, because somebody could poke their finger with that and that wouldn't feel good. So once I've got my end of my wire, and this is important, this is really important that you get this nice and tight before you start making the remainder of your wreath, because you do not want this piece ever trying to come loose or pop out. So get your beginning tight, and then as you make your wraps around, and I'm actually going to go up in here, as you're wrapping around, every couple of times that I go around with the wire, I just give it a pretty good tug to make sure that it is staying nice and tight so that our wreath will stay together. And what I'm doing is I'm just coming up a little ways on my branch, and I'm going to wrap my wire around. And you see what I did? I'm picking up the little pieces off of the branch and going down and just grabbing like the bare part to wrap my wire, because if I go over this, it's going to hold that down and create kind of a bare spot there, if that makes sense. And as we go along, I think you guys you'll be able to see what I'm talking about for, you know, trying to not create a bare spot on your wreath. So I'm just coming along where it makes sense and wiring. Okay? And we're going to go all the way around the wreath one time with our different pieces of greenery. And I'm doing the cedar first, okay? And I told you guys I've got pine as well, but I'm going to start off with just putting the cedar all the way around. And I'm trying to kind of hug this outside edge, because when we make our second and third trips around our wreath, then I can come back in here and start filling in also with the cedar. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we go along. So now I'm just looking for different cedar pieces, and I know on this bottom part that I really want to have branches that are kind of fuller, because that will make our base part of our wreath look much nicer. So I'm just going and looking here where it makes sense. Stick this guy in, and the bare part, like the stem part of your branch, I try to hide that. So just tuck that down in, and I'm going to do that again so you guys can see, and you'll be able to see it because I do it with everyone. But I'm just kind of tucking that bare spot down in until it looks nice and full here. And then I'm going to wrap around with the wire like we did on the first one. And you guys can see that I'm just lifting up the branches so that I don't, you know, have too much of it tied down, because that's going to ruin our fullness and create kind of what I call dead spots in our wreath, because it would just be smashed flat there and would look funny. So I'm trying real careful not to create those smashed looking areas, if you will. And as you go along, you can start kind of forming your wreath. The first one I did today, I had pieces that really came out, and you can also cut those, you know, to help form your wreath. But as you go along, if you just wire where it makes sense, you can start forming the wreath as you go along. Okay, so get this one kind of down where it looks good. And then I'm just going to keep on. Guys, I'm sorry, my allergies today, and I'm sure messing with this cedar and pine hasn't helped, are bugging me today. This guy right here, he may, let me look and see. Okay, so I'm going to pull these little kind of scraggly pieces of our branch. I'm going to pull those up and just grab them with my hand. And once again, kind of go back in here and tuck. And then I'm going to look and say, is he too much? No, I don't think he is, because I can put a piece of wire here, knowing that when I come back around, if I've had to wire that just to keep my form and my shape, then I can put pine and more cedar right here to kind of cover up where that wire is. Because this guy, he's going to need it, because he was way too wide across that part of him. So just wrap that around, and really, once you get going, guys, this goes super fast, super fast. So if you guys have got access to evergreen in your yard, that's great, use it. If not, do you have a neighbor or, you know, a family member that's got, you know, cedar and pine growing on their place? You know, ask them, hit them up and see if you can come and cut you off some cedar pieces. to make your life wreath. I'm trying to see. I need another little piece here. If you guys can see, I can already tell that this particular branch, I don't know if you guys can see it, right in here, he's pretty thin. So I'm going to grab another piece of cedar right quick. Bear with me. I'm trying to find one, see if I've already got one cut that would look good. Here's a little guy. So I'm going to take this smaller guy and go ahead and tuck him in and see how it covered up all of this viney, branchy looking part. It covered it up with greenery by just doing that. So I'm going to add him in right there and just try my best to not create smashed looking areas, which on this first one isn't near as important as the middle and top layers. That's when you really do not want that look. So, and I'll show you guys how to fix that in a little while because I had them on my one this morning. And then on this one, I'm going to show you guys, let me get some of this other greenery out of the way. I hope you can see this good. And this guy right here is kind of really going off at a crazy straight angle. So I'm going to put a little bit of wire around him, bring the wire back around my form, and I'm not going to put a whole lot of pressure because I don't want this guy smashed again next to my wreath form. So not a whole lot of pressure on him, okay? Just enough that helps form my wreath shape as we go around. So let me grab another piece here. This guy needs a little bit of a haircut before we use him. Okay, and then this guy, as you can see, he's pretty wide, and that's okay. We're just going to kind of grab him and bunch him a little bit, and then tuck him under like we've been doing, and wire him on. And then we can already tell that this right here looks pretty flat. So we know it's going to need a little bit of extra. So I'm just going to go ahead and find a nice slender piece that would fill this up nicely and go ahead and tuck it in while I'm here with my wire, because we already know he's going to need it. So we're just going to, sometimes you have to play with it, guys, to get it like you want it. Oh yeah, much better. Okay, so he looks good right there, just what we needed. So then we're going to wire him around. And I can tell you guys that my kitchen smells like Christmas. I've got the wreath I made that I posted earlier, sitting here on the other end of my island. And between it and this one, it smells like Christmas in my house. So, kind of fun. Let's see. Let me find another piece here. Okay, and now, this one, I just kind of need a smaller guy for here to help fill in. Yeah, this guy right here is perfect. So we're just going to kind of tuck him in, and the reason being, do you guys see right here how the form is exposed? So that's how you're going to know when you need to tuck something else, okay? So we'll just tuck him in, hold him, and then head up that way with the wire again, and being careful with the wire to not create flat spots in your wreath. So this guy, I'm going to go ahead and put the wire over him because I do want that to kind of stay there. And then I can tell that he needs a little bit more right in here to complete our form that we've got coming around this side. So while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and tuck another piece and wire it on while I'm at this point, because it's very obvious that it's going to need it. So, and then I just play with it. Once you've got your wire kind of holding it, then you can start manipulating your branches so that you can get them in a wreath shape that is aesthetically pleasing to you. So, all right, that looks like a pretty good base coat for us. Actually, that right there. Okay, let me turn this for you guys. I want you to see something before we keep going. Okay, if you look right here, you guys can see that the form is exposed there. And then I've got these two pieces that are kind of just, you know, kind of free. I'm going to bring those guys over, and I'm going to grab a piece of just my straight wire, and I'm going to wire this guy down, because see what he did? I'm just using him to kind of cover up that bare spot. So he will fill that in nicely for us. So I'm just going to take my single wire and wire him on right there so we can fill up. Oh, I lost my end of my wire. We'll fill up that bare spot, okay? So here he goes. And you can pull him down a little bit tighter. That's what I'm doing because I'm trying to get him to cover up the bare spot, and I want him nice and tight against him. So he's good. Those don't work good on that. Let me try my other cutters, okay? And then anytime, you guys remember, if you cut your wire, make sure you kind of roll it and tuck it back up under so that no one ever gets their fingers on it and gets hurt. Okay, now I'm going to go back to where we were. So here's where we were. Got the roll of wire there. And this time around, I want to stick some pine in to kind of give it a little bit of a different look. It adds a different color of green for one thing, which looks really good. And it also adds a different texture because you guys can see the texture is completely different between the cedar and the pine. So it just makes your wreath more interesting looking. Okay, so now we're going to tuck this guy just like we were doing with the cedar. Just find a spot where it makes good sense for him, and that doesn't really want to go there. So I might move it over a little. Oh, that feels better. Okay, and start wiring him on. Same thing, just weaving our wire in and out through the branches, trying to hide the wire as much as possible and trying to disturb the needles on our pine the least amount as possible. So there's that guy. And then you see up here, he's just kind of going off a little wayward. So I'm going to do the loose wrap of the wire kind of right in here and pull him a little bit closer to my cedar just so that he doesn't look so crazy. I mean, we don't want it to be absolutely perfect around the edges because we do want that nice, authentic, natural look, but we also don't want him just shooting off to the side and creating a, my goodness, what's going on there look. So anyway, got him on. Okay, now we still need pine. So we're going to continue grabbing our pine pieces, and I like this guy. Okay, so we're going to tuck him, and this guy's really giving some good texture there. So we're just going to stick him, run the bare part of his branch down in to our wreath, and then use our roll wire and wire him on. Guys, these go pretty fast too. I made the other one pretty quickly, so. And like I said, you guys could even make one to give as gifts. If you know somebody that will be hosting Christmas at their house, these would make good gifts as well, because I don't know if you guys have looked at the price of live Christmas wreaths, but I looked at them here a couple of months ago. I think it popped up as an ad on my Facebook feed, and oh my goodness, they're not cheap. They are not cheap. So this is a great way to have a live wreath without having to break the bank to get one. So kind of thinking I might have to make myself one of these, to be honest, because that's how much I like it. So, okay, I'm going to look right here, and I can tell there's a little bit of a dead area here. So I'm going to grab another piece of my cedar while I'm there with the wire. And if you guys kind of look as you go along, but then at the end, we're still going to hold it up and look at it and fix any bare spots, or if our wreath looks a little lopsided here or there, we'll fix that at the same time. So, got that guy in, so we're just going to wire him down. Okay, now that helped that odd look right there and filled that bare spot in. So just as you go, you can work on your bare spots, and then of course, like I said, at the end, we'll look again and make sure we're happy with it. So let's grab another piece of our pine, and this time, I think I want a piece of pine that's got a little bit more to it, and this one, as you can see, is even a different color. I don't know that I like that as well. All right, let's grab this guy. I'm trying to go for a little bit bigger piece so it'll fill in a little more. I think that looks good, so we'll go with this guy. Alright, we're just going to wire him on. Okay, and then at this point, I kind of stop and take an assessment and look to see what do I have going on that might need to be different, or where do I need to add some things. And it's looking pretty good. I can tell that in this area up here, we've got a little bit of a flat area where it looks like it needs something else. So we'll work on that when we get there. But at this point, I have picked some off of my cedar tree that have the little blue berries on them this time of year that I think is gorgeous. So I think we're going to start adding those guys in now and give a little bit of color and texture to our, more texture to our wreath, but then some really good color too. So let's get this guy tucked in. And again, you can tell as you go along. For instance, right here, you guys can see the stem of this branch. I want that covered up because that doesn't look good in our wreath. So I'm going to go through and just, let me see if I got to tuck this guy under here some more. I'm going to go through and add him. We're going to cover up those bare spots on our branches so that it looks nicer. Okay, and then just kind of look as you go and see what else you might need to do different or add. There's still a little bit of bare here. I think you guys can probably see that. So I'm going to grab another little piece of our cedar and tuck him and put him over that. Now, do you see how much better that looks? That helped us tremendously because it covered out all of the really leggy part of those branches that are kind of bare looking. So we're going to add this guy, weave him in and out so that we don't create other dead spots on our wreath. All right, I think for now I'm happy with that part. So we're going to keep going here. Kind of take a look and see. This guy might could take another little bitty piece right in this area. So I'm just going to take and cut a piece off here to kind of fill in that spot. I think I want evergreen there. So let me see if this piece right here will work. So we'll add this guy. We'll get his stem tucked in. And guys, I realize there's probably not going to be a lot of us on the call today because it's right before Christmas and I'm sure everybody is scurrying. So I know a lot of you are probably going to be watching this on the replay. So I appreciate the ones that could join me, and I appreciate any and all of you that are also catching it on a replay. So, okay. I tell you what, at this point, I don't know right through here that I need a whole lot. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut this wire and wrap it around it here, and we'll start wire again because we are getting very close to being done with our wreath. So, okay, there's that. And then, I don't know if you guys can tell, we got another flat area right here, very, very flat. So I'm going to add some more cedar to this area. Let me see if that looks good. I don't like the shape of him. And you guys will have to do the same thing I'm doing. You'll take pieces and lay them there, and you'll know right away if that is a good match, a good fit or not. And it'll be very obvious if you need to get a different piece. So this piece, much better. See how it fills this in and completes it? And I just cut this off of a bigger branch. So all I did is just went and took one of the shoots off of it, and this one I'm just going to play with it and move it around until I get it where I know. I'm going to use a straight wire now, until I know exactly where he needs to be. And then I'm just filling under here and making sure that I grab the wire form, our wreath form, and to make sure I've got the stem of that guy so we know that he's on good. And once I get him wired on, I'm going to give him a little bit of twist with the needle nose to make sure he's on good. Let's see. can find. So it's always a good idea when you guys are doing a wreath of any kind, but for sure a live wreath like this, you want to have your needle nose pliers, and for no other reason, just to tighten your wire, because you don't want to have your Christmas company coming and your wreath is falling apart, or even worse, give it as a gift and it falls apart. So just make sure you get that nice and snug. And honestly, it's probably the hardest part of making this is just making sure that you get everything tight enough. The rest of it's pretty simple. So cut this wire. So what I'm doing, guys, is I'm just using the end of this straight piece of wire, and I'm wiring it on, which is only using 2 or 3 inches each time, and then I'm twisting it back against itself with the needle nose, and then just cutting off the remainder. Looks like I brought a bug in from outside on my cedar, but that's okay. I guess a little bug never hurt anybody. Anyway, so let's see. We want to twist that so that we know it's good and tight, and tuck our wire up in there so nobody gets hurt, because like I said, mine is going to be a gift. So okay, all right, we've got that. And now I think just right here on top of the pine, because these pine branches do show a lot of stem, I'm going to add some more of our cedar there. Plus, I absolutely positively love the blueberries that are in these. So I'm going to add a few more just so we get some berries in that area. And then I'm going to just use my single wire again and wire this guy on. Let's see, or those 2 guys, I guess I should say. So we'll get him wired up. And then I thought when I'm finished, I'm going to show you guys a real simple way to make a bow. I used to do these years ago and had forgot about them. And at the Wreath class the other day, one of the sweet gals in class brought it up and said that's how she makes hers, because that's how she learned years ago too. And it reminded me, so I thought, oh, next time I do a wreath that needs a bow, I need to share that with you guys. So I'm going to show that to you in a little while too. All right, now you can kind of go along and make sure that nothing is loose and that you've got everything on. And I absolutely love those blueberries in there. It really adds a nice touch and some good color. Let's see, girls. I think we're looking pretty good. Let me look here. We've got right here, I'm going to turn around where you guys can see it. We've got this one kind of branch going off a little wayward, and I think a lot of it's because I didn't get him good and tight down here too, I see. But I'm going to add one more piece of wire, and this is the same thing you guys will do. Just pick it up, mess with it. It's going to become obvious if you've got branches that are loose or they didn't get tight enough, or maybe you missed the wire completely. That will become very obvious when you start messing with it. And then just go back and add additional wire where you need it, so that you can make sure that it's good and snug. So I'm also going to twist with the needle nose to make sure that it's good and tight. And then I'm going to tuck the ends of my wire again. And then this guy right here, I'm going to take a piece of wire. I'm going to show you guys. Hopefully you can see. I can get them right there. Let me just get a piece. Well, I'll do this. Okay. So where this guy, I hope you guys can see, where he's hanging and just a little bit weird, I'm going to take him and push him up against the wreath form to realize I'm getting out of the view. Okay, so I am trying to make sure you guys can see this. I'm pulling him at his base, kind of pulling him up at the base about halfway, and realizing that if I wire him right there, he won't be going all wayward crazy on us. So we're going to do one more wire there. Okay. And then I'm also going to give it a little bit of a tug with the needle nose. And guys, if you could make this outdoors, it would probably be best, because as you guys can see, it is making a mess. But if you choose to make it inside, I would just put down newspaper, a black trash bag, an old tablecloth, which is what I use, vinyl tablecloth, something that can capture your mess to make the mess clean up easier, because it does make a little bit of a mess, I'll be honest. So if you can do it outside, it'd be even better. But okay, that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to hold them up. I know you guys can't really see, but I just want to look and make sure. And when I hold them up, I can tell that I can see a lot of daylight right here in this area. So that tells me that I need to add a little bit of bulk right there. So I'm just taking this big branch that I have, pretty decent size. I say big, it's big for what we've been using. And I'm going to hold it in, and I look and say, that looks perfect. So now I'll just get a little bit more wire here. And I'm going to wire him. And this is just to take care of what appears to be a gap and makes our wreath look real flat on one side. And we're going to fix it by just adding this additional greenery. Let me see here. Okay, and I'm going to grab up all his little pieces here. And then I'm going to pull it back around kind of where I know I want it before I actually attach the wire, so that I know that it's going to stay where I need it. Okay, get that done. And then I'm going to go ahead and do him with the needle nose too, because he's going to need it. Okay. Give him a good twist. And then down here, where I added him, the bare part of his branch is also going to need to be wired on. So I'm going to cut another piece of wire for that, so we can make sure he's on good. I appreciate you gals for sticking with me, because I realize we're all super busy, and today has probably got a lot of stuff on it that you need to be doing. So I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. Okay, that's good. And then it's going to need one more piece right up here in this area, because it was also kind of droopy and hanging down a little bit. So we're going to get, well, maybe we're going to get one more wire. Got it. So I'm going to go in and stick my wire down where I make sure I'm getting on the other side of the wire frame so that it catches it. And then we're going to come down, and I'm going to loosely do this one because I don't want to pull it all the way against the wire form. If I pulled it against the wire form, we're going to have the same problem we had that we're trying to fix, and that's a big flat spot. So don't tug all the way. You want to just pull it enough that you can see that it rounded out the side of your wreath and filled it in, and then you want to stop because that's as far as you need to go. So let me get that cut off, and we'll tuck this guy. Okay, much better. Okay, now I'm pretty happy with the way our wreath looks. So I'm going to show you real quickly here. I'm grabbing my ribbon and my scissors, and I'm going to show you guys a quick way to make a bow that turns out pretty cool. Now, I made one earlier today, so I created myself a little cheat sheet so that I know how long this bow needs to be. So what you do is you take your ribbon and you turn it over, okay? Turn it over, and this is going to end up being inside of your bow. And then I hope you guys, let me move the wreath out of the way for a minute. I hope you guys can see this good enough. You want this beginning to be past what's going to be the halfway point of your bow, so that when we gather it in the center, you don't want this to be anywhere near that, because then your bow is going to come apart. So make sure you've got this tail end past what the middle of your bow is going to be, okay? So I'm going to go like this, and I'm only having to do this because I know exactly what my bow needs to be. Since I'm giving them as gifts, I really want them both to be the same and match. Okay, now I know how big it needs to be. I can remove my paper, and then I want you guys to see. So easy. So I know it needs to be this size. Now all you do is you just fold your ribbon back over itself. Okay, you just keep folding. And I know on the last one, I ended up with 8 different parts to my ribbon. So I know I've got to do that on this one too so that it matches. And right now, if I was to pull this, you guys can see, I hope you can see, there would only be 2 parts on this side and 2 parts on this side because that's all I folded over. So I'm going to keep folding until we know that we've got 4 parts on each side of our wreath. Okay, so we want 4 layers of ribbon, if you will. Okay, so turn, and then we're going to stop and look so that you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3. So we know we need 1 more, and 1, 2, 3. So if we turn 1 full time, and we're going to count again and make sure it's right. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on that side, and 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side. So we know we're done. When we cut, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did at the beginning with the tail end of our ribbon. We're making sure we go past the halfway mark, okay? So I'm just going to cut somewhere in here, and that way I know I got past that halfway point, okay? And then I am going to take some wire, and actually I'm going to use a piece of my straight wire because I'm going to leave this long enough that I'll use the same wire to tie it on to the wreath, okay? So we're just going to find the center, and you can easily do that if you don't want to eyeball it. Just fold your ribbon in half, okay, and put like a crease there, hold your finger there, whatever, and you'll know that is what you were shooting for. So now I take my piece of straight wire, and I find the kind of the center of it also, and I'm just going to wrap it around from front to back so that my twist ends up on the back of my bow, okay? So now we're just going to twist and twist it pretty good so it doesn't come apart on you. I just go around 3 or 4 times, okay? And we've got that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is start pulling your ribbon apart to create, actually, before you do that, I almost forgot something. Let's do this. Okay, cut a piece of your ribbon and tie it. Okay, so we've already done the wire, and that's really what's holding it. But to make our bow look a little prettier, let's tie this around it. So you just want to tie it around, okay? And then if you make your tails too big and they're going to show, kind of like I just did, I'm going to do a double knot. And then you can cut these and trim these off a little bit so they won't be seen behind your bow, okay? So take that, and now you've got a nice pretty center. And then you're just going to start going, and you're going to grab the inside of your loops first and start pulling in, and you're going to pull them pretty tight. Just start separating them, okay? And then do the same thing to the other side. And you're going to have a really nice looking bow that's super easy to make. And I'm so glad that my friend Lisa reminded me of these because I had forgot that this is a simple way to make bows. I learned that back in the 80s and haven't done one like that in years and just forgot that that is super easy. So any of you that think I can't make a bow, you really can. That's so simple. So we got our bow, and I like using the ribbon with wire. You don't have to. I like it because you can style your bow any way you want because the wire is going to keep your loops wherever you want them, and I really like that. So I like using the one with wire. You don't have to, but I just think it makes a nicer looking bow. And then to finish it off, because I also did this on the other one, is I'm going to give our bow some tails. Now you don't have to. You could stop right there and use your bow that way if that's more your style. But for mine and for the friend that I'm giving it to, I think she would like this better. It looks like her to me. So I'm going to cut some tails, and then I just go to the center again. Okay, so you're going to find the center, and then I'm going to stick this. So I want you guys to see, I'm going to slow down here. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm just going in. I've already got my wire. Okay, hopefully it's showing up for you guys. I've got my wire pieces that I said we were leaving, and I am going to lay my ribbon in there, grab this wire, and twist it down near where I added the tails. Just give it a good twist. okay? And now you've got tails for your bow, and we'll go ahead and attach it real fast to our wreath so I can show you guys how I do that. So I kind of look and figure out what I want to be the top of the wreath, and I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to leave it. I need to raise my camera to make sure you guys can see this. Okay, so I'm just taking the 2 long pieces of the wire that we left, okay, and I'm feeding them through to the back of the wreath. And then I'm going to feel back here to see this guy. I'm not sure where he went. Let's try him again. Okay, and on this one, putting on the bow, you can grab the wire frame if you want. You don't have to make sure. As long as you're going around several of the branches of your wreath, you'll be fine. And then I'm just going to pull that and twist again, okay? So just twist so we get that guy on so that he's done. And then I'm going to tuck the tail end of my wire. And that's just in case I decide I want to do something different with the bow or move it later. You could cut that off and then tuck the remainder of the wire like we've been doing. But anyway, you put him there. And then I'm going to turn it around so you guys can see. I'm going to raise up my camera. And you can tell I got him a little high. So just move your bow around until you're happy with it. And then your tails, you can your tails of your bow, you can tuck those into your wreath like that. And then work on your bow one more time to get it like you want it. And it's going to be ready to hang on your door or give as a gift to someone. So there you go. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. I don't know. Hopefully you guys have access to different evergreens. And you could also use like boxwood. I think boxwood would be real pretty. If you've got access to magnolia branches and magnolia leaves, that would make a gorgeous live wreath. So anything that's green year-round is going to make a gorgeous live wreath. So you guys use your imagination and use what you've got in your yard, or maybe what your friend or family member has in their yard, and make yourself some live wreaths. I think, you run and do this tomorrow. You saw how long this took, and it took a little longer because I stop and explain and try to make sure that you guys have everything, all the information you need to make it, but this doesn't take very long at all. So hopefully that has given you guys a good idea, and maybe even for next year, if you want to do it earlier, in December, instead of just having it, the few days before Christmas, you could probably, I would safely do this for at least 2 weeks in advance. I think it would look good because a friend of mine has dropped off live greenery arrangements for me in the past, and they have looked good for 2 or 3 weeks. So I think you could probably even make this middle of December and still have it look really nice by Christmas Day. So anyway, I hope that's encouraged you guys and inspired you to maybe go out and make your own live wreath. The only other thing I forgot to tell you is when you're done, when you're at this point and you're looking around your wreath, and if there's a piece that really looks odd, it's shooting off to the side or it's sticking straight out and it bugs you, simple. Take your pruners, cutters, whatever you use to cut your evergreen in the first place, and give it a haircut. Just cut that stuff off. Wherever it would make sense to keep it kind of in a wreath shape, you cut that stuff off so that it looks good. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me, and if you're catching me on the replay, I appreciate it. If you guys would do me a huge favor, if you know someone that would love to make their own live wreath, would you please share this video with them? I would appreciate it if you did. So I appreciate you guys. You'll have a great Saturday evening, and I'll see you in a few days. Bye-bye.